Hey friends, so today we are going to be working on this flower right here. So I am laughing at myself a bit because I told you when I did the border, this is the only time we're using the 6 strands. Then we did the woven wheel. I'm like, okay, this is the last time. Well, apparently I forgot for these petals I used 6 strands again. So I'm sorry, please forgive me. You have to thread your needle one more time with the 6 strand. So the reason why we do 6 strands for this flower is just because the petals are so tiny that the 6 strands help give it a fuller look without having to do as many stitches. So most of these leaves will probably, or petals, sorry, should only need 1 to 2 stitches on each one. So it's going to be a lot easier and quick to fill up those petals. So let's get a little bit closer and I'm going to show you. And again, this is satin stitch, just like you did on these flowers the other day. So you already know how to do it. We're pretty much just going to be doing 1 straight stitch down and then possibly 1 tuck. Not tuck, sorry, share. And again, we start with the petals first, leaving out the middle so that the middle can be done last. And sometimes you'll know, sometimes I hold my needle like this just to help it not get all twisted up. Okay, so I'm going to share that first hole. Okay, and I'm good with that, just 2 stitches right there. Let's move on to the next petal. Ooh, if I can get it and come up where I want, oh my word. There we go. One straight stitch down. It looks like we're going to just share 1 here. Now, you might be asking, or maybe you're not, but here I am filling in this space while I stitch. Sarah, why don't you use 6 strand more often if it fills things in more quickly? Well, the reason, watcher, is that sometimes I prefer a little more of a delicate look, so that's why I'll do fewer strands. And then the other reason is that 6 strands is just a little bit harder to stitch with. You tend to have to pull a little bit harder on the fabric. You have to thread the needle a little bit more difficultly. What is that phrase? More difficultly? Yeah. You've watched so many videos at this point that you're probably just used to my nonsense and how I speak. So all that to say, I don't use 6 strands all that often because really I just prefer fewer strands. But there are times when 6 strands is handy. So far, none of these have been 1 single stitch. So it might be this one over here that needs a single. I know at one point when I stitched this the very first time, I definitely had a petal that only required 1 single stitch, but that's the thing about embroidery and tracing your own patterns. You might accidentally trace yours a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner, and so everyone's pattern is going to be just slightly different. And I have recently been playing around. This is apparently now Sarah's chatting hour. I have been playing around with printing on the fabric, and that is really fun and I really like it, but I don't like that there's no way to remove the pin marks. And so that's not too bad for certain stitches. I'd say it's really wonderful for text, because you don't have to worry about your text being traced poorly. Which is definitely one of my problems. I tend to go a little too fast on my text, and then I'm not tracing it very well. But for things like, especially these daisy flowers, man, if you don't get right on covering up the printed pattern, you see it and it's just so annoying and it frustrates me. And maybe there's a way to do it with not invisible ink, but the ink that disappears, and I just don't know. So if you have a clue, I would love to find out. There's another embroidery artist who has figured out an amazing way to stamp her designs onto fabric for her customers, using ink that's similar to the pilot pens where it goes away with heat, but then you have to have a custom stamp made, and that sounds a little pricey. I think that one will be our first single stitch. Or here, just to help it look a little fuller and it's not too many straight lines. Okay, now before I move on to doing the middle portion, I'm just going to go ahead and stitch these petals over here. And it's the same as before, it's just the pattern of the petals are a little bit different. You're not going fully around the flower. I'm not making a full circle. There we go. It looks like it's going to stay a single stitch right there. Now it's starting to be getting a little hard for me to see over the camera. Okay, so I'm going to do this next little petal just a little before that border, and then the next petal will go over the border. Stay with a single stitch or do two. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna do one more. And if I don't like it, I can always take it out. Okay, yep, I'm gonna do that. All right, so now I'm gonna tie this off and we're gonna start on the yellow on the inside of the flowers. All right, so we have 436 with 2 strands, and we're gonna do 2 twists on the center of these flowers. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to get about 3 in this big one. Oop. And we're using such small number of strands just because the flower itself is so tiny. Okay, so I'm not going to tie off or anything. I'm just going to go straight over to this other flower and start doing the French knots over there. Again, I'm going to do the French knot to twist. I'm kind of working my way on the bottom, closest to the petals first. And this is when you can use your own creative freedom of saying, okay, I think just one row is nice, or I would like to do maybe 2 more stitches on top of these 3, kind of whatever you like. I think I'm going to leave, well, I think I'm going to do a single twist right on top. I'm improvising here, guys, using my creative freedom. Help it give a little slightly more rounded look. You'll have to understand, I record these videos during my kids' quiet time. My brain is pretty dead already from the day, even though we're only halfway through the day. So speaking's just not my strong suit. Okay, I think I might do one more right about here. Okay, so we're going to tie this off and move on to the leaves. All right, so we have our 936 3 strands, and we're going to do these leaves first, and then we will do the stems. So just like you did the fishbone stitches everywhere else on these leaves, you're going to just go straight down the middle, a little more than halfway, and then work your way down the leaf, left, right, and coming over this border for this leaf and this one to the left. work on a stem stitch for our stem. Again, you don't have to cut and tie off after the leaves. You can just keep going because it's still the same floss amount. So you're going to start at either the bottom of this stem or this stem, whichever one you want to do first. I'm going to start over here. Oops. I'm going to cross over that border, just right over it. If anything, I might even move it just a tad and kind of tuck under there. Remember, don't pull it all the way through. You're going to leave a little kind of U shape here, come up right through the middle, not hitting that border, and pull away from your U. Remember, you always want to keep that little U shape always on either the bottom or the top. It doesn't matter which one, you just want to keep it consistent. I prefer just to always keep it on the bottom, so I just always know I'm on the bottom, stay on the bottom. Now this last stitch, I'm going to kind of push up a little bit into the flower, just so that it looks like the stem is reaching all the way up there to that flower. Sorry, my stand's getting a little loose. All right, and now we're just going to do the same thing on this side. Remember, you start with about a stitch length, come in the middle of it. Now we're not necessarily pulling, the U's not necessarily facing us, it's facing to the right a little bit. I'm going to just go right over this stem. I'm holding that the wrong way, aren't I, guys? Okay, and now our needle's coming right in that previous hole. Didn't push my needle up high enough. Ooh. This one's a little tricky. I almost feel like I probably should have done my little U shape facing the other way, which would have been fine so long as I kept it consistently facing that way. Since I've already started it going this way, I need to keep it on that side. Okay, last one. I'm going to push it kind of up into that flower a little bit. And you are done.